Hey, Mike here at Northwest School of Fly Fishing, the old fish hobo. It's, I don't know, I'm pushing a day or two and it'll be October. And I've been up here in the mountains of Idaho. It's been 87 degrees and it's almost October. And I've been up here fishing, and I was along the river fishing, and I ran into a guy who, first thing he wanted to know was what kind of fly rod I have. You know, that's kind of an odd thing to do, and I told him what I have, and he goes, "Oh, you prefer that?" And I go, "Well, yeah, I like it." And it got me thinking that what dry fly rod do I like to use, and what dry fly rod that I do use? And it's a really simple question, and it's a really simple answer. I prefer using a 9-foot 4-weight dry fly rod, and I have used a 9-foot 4-weight dry fly rod probably for the past 30 years. And probably one of the most subjective things in fly fishing today is what is a good dry fly rod, and you can ask any number of anglers, and they'll tell you what they think is the best dry fly rod for them, and they're all right. It's a subjective thing. There is no wrong or right answer to what an angler prefers in forms of a dry fly rod. However, I think we're losing the point in fly fishing. It's not so much what kind of fly rod that you want to use as a dry fly rod, but the reality is it's not that. The reality is what weight line do you prefer to use? And now you're talking a whole different thing that has nothing to do with the fly rod. So every fly rod has a weight to it. This is a 9-foot 4-weight fly rod. This is a 8-foot 3-weight fly rod. Every fly rod has a length and a weight to it. That weight, that 9 weight doesn't signify that rod's heavy. What it's telling you is it needs that weight of line, and line is the weight. So getting back to dry fly fishing and what rod do I prefer to use in dry fly fishing, the reality is I prefer using 4-weight floating line because it's very light and easy for me to be moving my fly rod back and forth, and it's easy for me to do everything in fly fishing. So for me, a 4-weight fly rod is what I desire. I desire to use 4-weight line. Having said that, manufacturers create fly rods to move fly line, and they match the weight of the fly line with the weight of the rod. So when you buy a 4-weight fly rod, it has to be paired with a 4-weight line. And there's a lot of guys out there, I mean thousands of guys, that will tell you that now you can go a 5-weight. You can put a 5-weight on a 4-weight rod, and you can put a 3-weight on a 4-weight line. But you don't want to go up 2. You don't want to put a 6-weight on a 4-weight. And I say, no, that's illogical. Everything in fly fishing is logical. If this rod, which is a 4-weight rod, is also designed to cast 5-weight line, it would say it right here on the butt section. So really what you're doing is you're taking a 4-weight rod, you're putting 5-weight line on it, and it's not designed to do that. And you're not going to get the performance out of that line, that weight line, that you will a 4-weight fly line for a 4-weight rod. That's my preference. I like light lines, and today's, we're talking 2024, these fly rod manufacturers have developed fly rods that work wonders. You're not going to, because you have a light fly rod, is not going to diminish your ability to fight that fish and bring him in just as quick as you had a 5-weight. That argument doesn't last anymore. There's no logic to that anymore. However, there are a huge amount of fly fishermen that will prefer to use 5-weight line with their 5-weight rod as their dry fly rod, and that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that, but I like that lightness. I like to be able to move a rod this simple. You know, that's as simple as I do it. And with light line, it really responds to that. And if it gets a little breezy or a little windy, I can bring my rod a little sideways and cut in. If it gets too bad, I can go to a 5-weight rod with a heavier line. So why I use a 4-weight rod is because I like 4-weight line, and that's what I fly fish with. So if you don't have a 4-weight rod, yeah, go into a fly shop and ask them if you can test cast a 4-weight fly rod, and they got to put a 4-weight line on there, and go out there and try it in the parking lot. You can be surprised how well that rod will move in your hand, and the lightness of it. That's certainly the characteristics that I like to use, and I'd recommend that you at least try that. So that's what I fish with, a 4-weight rod, and I'd recommend that you do the same thing. And in the meantime, down the road, I hope to see you on the river.